right, we'll roll right into our regular meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mrs. Pinkstock. Here. Mr. Rainier.
Here.
Mrs. Psalm. Here. Mrs. Young. Here. Mr. Sharp.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is approve the agenda as presented. Is there a motion? Second. Seconds. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Rainier.
Yes.
Mrs. Young. Mrs. Pinkstock. Yes. Mrs. Psalm. Yes. Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 2 there, the consent agenda is to accept the minutes from the previous meeting, approve substitute list, teacher list, which is number 6, as presented by the Fairfield County ESC, which is attachment 1, and the Pickaway County sublist for January 2022, which is attachment 2. Approve resignations, Lindsay Gilbert, educational aide, effective January 3, 2022. And Angel Springer, special ed teacher, effective January 7, 2022. And then approved donations, Edward Beery on behalf of the Bertha Wilson Trust for Ag Education, $2,000. Dynamics Energy Services for the scoreboard project, $3,000, and Jimmy Miller for the athletic department, $153. Is there a motion? Moves, second.
Second.
Susan seconds. Discussion. In terms of the donations, I would obviously just say thank you. If you're out there watching on the thing, thank you to those who have donated. We always obviously appreciate donations. Anything else? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm.
Yes.
Mrs. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Rainier.
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Public participation, student liaison report.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Josie Speakman, and I represent the student body. State government testing will take place tomorrow for all juniors. Okay. Girls basketball beat Liberty Union on Saturday to improve 7-5 this season. Boys basketball lost to Fairfield Union in a hard-fought game on Friday. They are currently 4-6 for the season. The girls team plays tomorrow at home against New Hope, and the boys play tomorrow as well at Logan Elm. Our wrestling team finished 5th overall at the Logan Elm tournament this Saturday. Their next meet will be at home this Saturday. The AC Student Athlete Commission will meet on January 21st to discuss upcoming sports events and new ideas.
Pep Band will now be playing at our home athletic events. The Drama Club has been practicing and rehearsing for their play Little Women. Showings will take April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And Academic Challenge has been practicing, and their first match will take place at Taze Valley on January 26th.
Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Sharp, and I'm here on behalf of the ACFFA chapter. So today I'm just going to give you a bit of a recap on our past, present, and future events. So since my last update, we successfully sent qualifying members on our Columbus Zoo Lights trip. We held our December monthly meeting where we gave our starting committee reports for our building communities, growing leaders, and strengthening agriculture committees. We continue to work on our upcoming winter and spring CDEs. And our upcoming important dates, January 11th, we have our state AgCom online exam. January 14th, our Ag Breakfast at Frisch's. January 18th, our January monthly meeting, which will be our degree ceremony. So any of our members who are getting their green hand degrees, which would be usually our freshmen or our sophomores, and then our chapter degrees, which is sophomores and juniors, will be getting those degrees at that meeting, and you are welcome to attend if you'd like to. And then January 25th is our Ag Power Diagnostics online exam and our State Ag Sales online exam. So thank you again for all your continued support of our chapter and all of our activities that we are doing.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to recognize our board members for this is Board of Education Appreciation Month. I often wonder why they do it in January, but that's what they've chosen to do. But I have a certificate for them, and that seems like a minor thing to give for all that they do. Mrs. Fairchild at least made them some snacks for, I appreciate that. So
Justin approved.
Yeah,
Really good.
So, but seriously, from this chair, I appreciate everything that you do for us, our kids, our community. It's never, as we say, it's a very, not always a rewarding job. I understand that because of all the things that you hear from people. It's not always positive, I know, but I know people do appreciate, they voted for you, and I want you to know that I appreciate greatly what you do. So if you would like to, please come forward and, Mr. Hank, could you take a picture, please, when we get them all? Mr. Sharp? Yeah, well, let's have one group picture here.
Okay.
Thank you. Mrs. Young? Thank you. Mrs. Psalm? You take another picture. Thank you. Mr. Renier?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mrs. Spinks, welcome aboard.
Make sure you have it right side up.
Yeah.
Don't be that one, right?
Smile pretty. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Thank you very much.
Then I'll point out that I came straight here from basketball practice, hence the tennis shoes.
And our academic challenge team is ready because they have a secret weapon coming in practice with them, Mr. Aaron Sharp. So we're all.
He said he'd come in.
Then
Yeah.
they already
He
said,
did a couple
basically.
times.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in the
Wouldn't
back.
be as good as Sarah Sharp, but I mean, what do you? I didn't want to outshine him, so.
All right. Obviously, no other public participation because there's no public here. So on to treasurer's report. Thank you. Yeah. Financial reports were treasurer's report. Yeah, go ahead and talk about first. And then we'll do the commission section.
Okay, hopefully you received the treasurer's report. I did try to send it out today as well to give you, so everything was right side up. So I hope that was a little easier to read electronically if you chose to read it that way. Overview of the month, we did not receive any property taxes or income taxes this month. So as usual, the expenditures exceeded our revenues. Our general fund revenues were $882,412. That comes from state foundation. Investment earnings, and then we did have an E-rate reimbursement this month, and so that's kind of throwing some of our numbers off because I believe it was received a little later in the year, last year. That is something we receive annually, every year, and it helps to offset the cost of internet and any other hardware, anything that we buy. And it's a state program, basically, just like a grant for technology almost. And Mr. Dan, actually is the administrator of that E-rate funding. So we did sell some of the fitness equipment out of the weight room here in the high school, or the preschool building. And then we had preschool tuition, which is something we didn't have last year. So that was the differences in our revenue from last year. Expenditures were about $1,559,905. Total checks written were $2,089,196. Expenditures are up approximately $282,000. Mostly, that is mostly because of fringes. If you remember last month, I said that we did not recognize the health insurance payment in November. So we had to in December because of how it fell in the month. So it was in December when it was transferred. It was an internal transfer from our 024 self-funded fund. Did anybody have any questions over the month itself? We should receive income tax in the month of January. So we'll have that income, as well as the state finally did get the new funding up and running. So we received a catch-up payment on the 7th of January. It was a little over $1 million from the state because we've been receiving basically fiscal year 19 funding this whole year, waiting for them to be able to basically build that system within the state finance system. So they did get that done. We'll have another, the report in February, we'll have another payment that catches up a few of the other line items in the foundation payment. So then the first payment in February should be our first, what I'm going to call normal payment. So what it's going to look like twice a month. But we'll be able to go over all that and how it's kind of played out. I've talked to you guys a lot about what we thought we would get, what it looked like we were going to get, what all the different scenarios and
Until all that's finalized, do they cap what they give us at like 75% of what we got last year, or something like that, or?
we are on a guarantee. So one of the line items in the payment shows you that they're giving us to get us to a certain level. So yes, we are due to receive about $110,000 more than we received last year. So that's kind of a guaranteed amount. So yes, you can see there's a line item in there that will equalize that until, and it's only a biennium budget too. So we'll get it for 2 years and then who knows what the next budget will be for the state. Any other questions? You received all your reports. I will point out in your, I don't know if anybody saw it in the reconciliation, the old one that we really don't use, I just provide to you in case you want to look at it. There was a $6,000 amount that was not in transition. So the two reconciliations, I made a big note that this is not in transition. It was an adjustment made. And you can see that on the cash reconciliation we've been using, which is a new one that comes out of redesign. So I didn't know if anybody caught that or saw that. I knew Susan would see it, so I just want to make sure because I didn't want it to look like in one place I put it as in transit, and the other one I put it as an adjustment. So okay, yes, probably do them separately.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the financial report? Susan moves, there a second?
Has a second.
Justin seconds, discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Anir,
Yeah.
Mrs. Pinkstall.
Yes.
Sorry. Mrs. Psalm.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
I'm
I
sorry.
said yeah, and then I realized how unprofessional that sounds. I corrected myself by saying yes, but that made it worse.
We will make your mind.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, appropriations.
Okay, so we also received the appropriations measure for this month, and I was going to go over some of the changes for you. Doesn't find it in here. Actually, sorry, I was looking way in the back of my report. So I included, when I do, obviously, the appropriations measure, we also include the certificate of estimated resources, and we did have some changes.
Would those have been at the beginning or the end?
Yeah,
of
which
the
page are you
negotiations?
on, or where can we? So attachment number 3 begins the amended appropriations
Yes.
resolution.
Okay.
So it's not too far back. It's not.
Yeah, it's not that far, I just remember we're looking at numbers.
Oh,
But there's
okay.
no numbers on that front.
So the first section is the actual amended appropriations. The second section would be the revenues. So it's the amended official certificate of estimated resources, which is the estimated resources for the year. This is established by the tax budget. So all the numbers that we receive from the property taxes and things, this is where that comes into play. But we do have the ability to make changes throughout the year to this, and this is an amended estimated resources. The two changes that were made, we removed the grant fund revenues from 599 and moved them to 584. So for whatever reason, Title IV, the federal government changed the fund number. I'm not sure why, they just did, so we had to make that change. So by the end of the year, we gotta have everything running through 584. So we made those adjustments and estimated resources. And then we added $110,000, $110,141 to the permit improvement revenue, which is the OO refund. And later in my report, I'm asking for a transfer of funds. There were several projects that we have upcoming that if you approve those, we will need that to cover those projects. So those are the two changes in resources. So back to the amended appropriations. Moving the special ed supervisor to a purchase service is an appropriations change we had to make. I know this sounds minor, but we had some maintenance equipment that we had been putting in instructional. So we had to move those. So that'll be a change in the appropriations. And when I say change, basically I reduced one appropriation and increased the other one to the appropriate fund. The bus garage lift, we did not have appropriated, which is $48,940. And we talked about that in the transportation meetings a couple of months ago, but that had broken and Mr. Lee had to find a temporary fix. So now that is in. And then we,
can we use the funds that we had talked about for the band room for any of this? The lift or the HVAC repairs or the equipment storage building?
yes, we can.
Yeah, we can use it for just about anything we
Because
want,
we
right?
need to use
Except
that
for-
money, right?
We do need to use that money up. We need to make a plan. So I'm saying kind of yes, we can use it for whatever we want to use. There are some steps we will have to take with the lender, which is Key Bank, and with the legal, which would be the bond counsel, which would be Bricker, to make sure that it all flows as it should. But yes, we are absolutely.
Is that what we're gonna do with this stuff?
I had not planned on this stuff immediately, but then Mr. Dick and I were talking about possibly doing that. However, I wasn't comfortable, he and I, neither one were comfortable without making a full plan of what we were gonna do, because it's about $1.1 million.
And we can pay that back if we don't use it without a penalty, is that right?
In 3 years, so we're almost 1 year in.
So we have 2 more years.
We have 2 more years before we can pay it back with no penalty. But we did finance it at 1.67%. So the interest that we're paying on it is very, very low. Which doesn't mean that we want to pay interest on money we're not using. I
Correct.
think we should use the money. I
Right.
just want to make sure that because it's such a sum of money, I want to make sure that we're very accountable with what we're doing and it's planned.
Right, it just seems like these would be items that would fall under there. The lift at the bus bar and the HVAC repairs and the storage facility, I know they don't add up to $1 million, but they do add up.
Absolutely,
Almost 200,000.
yes. And we have talked about that exact thing.
So will that come to us at a later date of how to pay for this instead of it being in the permanent improvement? Because it's
So the hot water, the HVAC repairs, which is the hot water, domestic hot water boilers, which is part of the 10 items that we had sent. Unfortunately, Bricker did not get the resolution and the contract done. So we don't have that. We were going to do it as a discussion item tonight. We certainly can take that $154,000 and use what we financed for that. Nothing's going to come to you on that till appropriating it doesn't mean we have to spend it. That means the appropriation's there. If this is how we go, they're amended throughout the year. I can continue to amend them, like I can change it back in the future. But yes, Mr. Dick and I just had that discussion because we're like, we need to sit down and bring a plan to the board of what we're going to do with this $1.1 million. I think now that the board committees are established, building and grounds are something that maybe that's a committee we need to get together and go, okay, what's the best uses of these funds? Mr. Dick, do you have anything to add?
No,
That's
you and I just discussed it, I don't know, it was one day last week right before Christmas, so with the question Mrs. Salma asked.
So with that said, are there any other questions about the appropriations resolution?
So to Robin's question, we'll do it as is tonight and then at a future meeting, address the 1.1.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, because essentially what I would do, it would still have to be appropriated because it's money that we're spending. So it would kind of still be the same thing, we just pay the bill out of the finance money, so.
Okay. The 467 fund, student wellness, that goes away, right?
It is going away. We do have, matter of fact,
I know it kind of comes out in the wash with the new budget, but
It's
like,
built into the other.
it's built in, but,
it is, but it's a restricted fund.
right.
So we will be tracking the income from that, and we'll also be tracking the expenses associated with it, because we will be responsible to show that we're spending the money for the intent and purpose
Mhm.
that the state gave it to us. They've actually come up with, I just added like 4 or 5 restricted funds within the general fund to receipt in the first payment. So there's monies that, like student wellness. The 467, we should spend that down throughout the rest of this year with
Mhm.
salaries and benefits. We've purchased about everything that we have intended out of that fund, and we
Okay.
should be able to exhaust those funds with salaries and benefits through the end of the year.
I was just curious if there was like a statute of limitations on having to have it spent by.
No.
Would that fund just go away then after,
Correct.
it'll fall off the books and?
It'll fall off the books. It won't go away. It'll just become an inactive fund.
Okay.
Because there shouldn't be any more resources for it.
Thanks.
That's a good question though, because that's what we've been talking about. Anything, the student wellness funds and the ESSER funds, for how we've been using them kind of coincide
Mhm.
because they have to do with health
Yeah.
and wellness and, mental health and things like that. So we've been kind of going back and forth and trying to figure out the best use. All the guidance from BOE has been to spend down that 467
Yeah,
as quickly as feasible, and that is a, value added expense. Don't just spend it to spend it, certainly, but use that money, those monies first. Because I believe I don't know this to be fact, but I believe there'll be some stipulations on spending the money that's coming in through the general fund as a restricted fund.
Mhm.
Like we'll be almost a maintenance of effort type of thing where we will have to spend X amount of dollars that are student wellness centered every year or focused.
now we originally used some of the student wellness funds for like 4 or 5 positions last year.
Yes,
Will the new restrictions inhibit us from continuing in that vein or?
no,
Okay.
it'll be fine to
Okay,
continue
cool.
that. What Mr. Dick and I had talked about doing is transitioning those positions into ESSER
Mhm.
because they meet the criteria of ESSER as we had written our budgetary details and things.
Yeah.
And then once the ESSER funds are exhausted, then that would go right back into student wellness as part of the general fund.
Cool.
But when that happens, that's why in the forecast, it was really important in year 2023 and 2024, that we make sure that we're including those salaries back in, because that is, even though it's restricted, it's in the general fund. So all of those salaries we've been offsetting will come back into the general fund, even though there's a resource there to pay them. It'll still be an increase to the general fund. So we've tried to create a clear, as I want to say, an exact picture as possible with when those salaries would be something that would hit that forecast again.
When you guys are looking at those projects that you were discussing and just, kind of figuring out how you want to shape them, whatever, can we look at also, I don't know how much it would cost, but I'm happy to check, but I would love to have a like consolidated campus development plan, basically like a sort of a long-term vision for, okay, this is where we're at today, from a building and ground standpoint, where do we want to be, or where do we think we'll be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And I'm sure there's I don't know if it would be an architect, an engineer firm, or somebody out there that would be able to come in and take a look at what we have and say, hey, if you anticipate growing at this rate in 10 years, this is what you're gonna need. And what, because for us, being kind of landlocked and, I know, some schools right now, like Bloom Carroll's growing at 80 students. I think you said, Mr. Dick, is like 80 students,
80 to 90 a year.
80 or 90 students a year. And it hasn't happened quite to that extent here yet, but I think that it's a matter of time. It's more of a when, not an if it'll happen. And given the expense and stuff like that can be, it's better to start planning for it now. You can always change your plan and adjust it, but if we have no campus development plan whatsoever, then we're just kind of winging it when it comes time. So better to have a plan and change it than not. But just throwing that out there.
All right. Okay. Any other appropriations comments before we do a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve appropriations? Robin moves. Susan seconds. Any other discussion with that bit? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 4, there is adopting the tax budget for fiscal year 2023, which is what we did the hearing for
Correct.
prior to. So is there a motion for that? Trustee moves, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee seconds, any other discussion with that? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 5, approve following expenditures declaring at the time of the contract, the obligation was lawfully appropriated and was in the treasury appropriate fund, free from these encumbrances. $16,503 to Acme Elevator, which would be the elevator over the primary. Eternally getting worked on.
Yes.
Is there a motion? Justin moves, second. Any seconds, discussion then?
So is that elevator working now then?
It is now.
Is it what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the then and now.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure it's actually working.
Well, I know we talked at one point about just like replacing it, or maybe not the whole thing, but the electronics inside it because.
The guts have been replaced.
Yeah. Because what was in there before was like
Proprietary.
proprietary, only the company that put it in could work on it, and they were really expensive.
Anyone else, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. 6th item there is to approve the following transfers. Transfer $230,141 from 001 to 003, and transfer of $361,496.83 from, gosh, that's a lot of those, 001-0000 to 001-9905. Is there a motion? Justin moves, second.
I'll second.
Robin seconds, then discussion.
Okay, so usually in October, we will, the other 3 funds a permanent improvement fund, and it does not have any source of revenue because we don't have any voted tax to fund it. So usually about October, November, we do a transfer of funds to the 003 out of general fund to pay whatever. We try to still keep track of our permanent improvement expenses through that fund. That's where in the appropriations, I only asked for $110,000 appropriation, but the fund is $230 because $120,000 was kind of in the annual transfer. We had, because of the bus barn, the lift, there was a little bit more money than normal. So that's what comes up with the $230,000. The second one is just to pay the money that we financed. So that will do an entire fiscal year. Bricker Neckler had us set that up so the payments would come out of 001 2022-9905, which is a special cost center, so it kind of just like sets it aside so you can see what those payments are. That was how they instructed us to do that. So annually, we'll have to make a transfer to cover those payments. So we pay that twice a year. We have an annual payment for principal, and then we make 2 interest payments a year. And it's only a 10-year lease. That's why the payments seem like they're so high.
In addition to the numbers, can you put like in parentheses what those are? 401, general fund,
Yes,
403. Just
absolutely. Okay, I can make sure those get put in there.
just going forward, so it's a little more sensitive.
Any other discussion with either of those items? All right, roll call.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
All right, I would like to recommend we approve classified contracts for the 2021-2022 school year. One-year educational aide for preschool will be Tricia Dwyer, and substitute cook cashier would be Ashley Adair.
Robin moves, is there a second? Susan seconds. Discussion?
Well, I was looking for substitutes, but the one-year educational aide replaces the one who we accept the resignation earlier in the meeting.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock,
Yes.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend we approve the following volunteers for the classroom: cafeteria kitchen, Peggy Hinton; baseball, Jason Hedges; track, Kyle Wright; and Tim Go.
So moved.
Robin moves, is there a second? Just a second. Discussion?
Allows all of them to get back here and help us, so we very much appreciate it.
Yes. Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend we approve the certificated contracts for the balance of the 2021-2022 school year. Reading tutor Jane Stevens, reading tutor Kayla Hardy.
So moved.
Robin moves, is there a second?
Second.
Susan seconds. Discussion?
If you recall, we talked about trying to find at least 3 reading tutors to help us with our gaps in our K2 building. These are two of the we're looking for. So very excited about having them here.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock,
Yes.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend the job title change for Teresa Pinkstock from K-12 curriculum supervisor to K-12 curriculum supervisor and preschool supervisor. No change in salary.
All right, so moved.
Robin moves, is there a second? Susan seconds. Discussion?
Mrs. Pinkstock feels that she can do both of them, and at this point, she has done a very good job with both of them, so very excited about having her here, doing the preschool as well.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock, Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
All right, I would like to recommend the supplemental contract of 2021-22 school year middle school track, girls track, Abby Gall, high school reserve baseball coach, James Justice. And then the board has offered the position of high school varsity softball coach, middle school boys track coach, high school varsity baseball coach to those employees of the district who have a license, and no such employee qualified for the positions accepted them. Further, these positions were advertised as available to any individual with a license who is qualified to fill them and is not employed by the board. That being said, I'd like to recommend varsity softball coach Ben Hedrick, middle school boys track coach Mark Marshall, high school varsity baseball coach Travis Stone.
All right, is there a motion? Susan? Misty second. Any other discussion?
This is probably about half of our spring sports, so we're in pretty good shape.
Anything else? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock,
Yes.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend we approve the extended service days for Steve Dalton at 10 days.
Misty moves, there's a second. Susan, second. Discussion?
This was missed when we made the transition from Mr. Brosovich to Mr. Dalton's position.
Discussion? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Pinkston?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Lanier?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yeah.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
I'd like to recommend we approve the COVID-19 addendum to the high school and middle school handbooks for 2021, 2022.
Robin moves, there's a second. 2 seconds. Discussion?
We took it out because we thought COVID was not going to affect us potentially. Now we're putting it back in because COVID may affect us potentially. And this allows us to do the grading like we did in the past. So I want to make sure it's in the handbook in case we have to go to a remote setting.
But it's consistent with what it was
Yes.
before.
Exactly the same.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkston?
Yes.
Mr. Lanier?
Yes.
Mrs. Young? Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
I'd like to recommend we approve the change to policy Igbjb, summer practice schedule. And this change will take place after we discuss it, so.
Yeah.
There's no change yet.
I'm
Right.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah,
We
there's
need a
no,
motion to discuss it.
I move.
gotcha.
Jeff moves, second. Misty seconds. So discussion.
So this will take place the following summer, not this
the
upcoming
summer will not
summer.
be affected.
Right.
But one of the things we discussed, and we never finalized it, was by moving, if we stay at July 1st through the 14th, Mrs. Psalm has brought the concern about the weekends and all that. And we thought about making it the last Saturday of June through 2 weeks later, whatever that date is.
That way it goes weekend to a weekend
Yes.
as opposed to a middle of a week to a middle of a week.
Regardless of when it happens, it's the,
That's how it used to be. It used to be,
Last Saturday in June through
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
Okay.
Ideally, that's so athletes and stuff can go on vacations and things with family and not have to worry about.
And you mentioned athletes, Mr. Sharp.
Well,
And
and-
I know.
and stuff.
And I think that's the reason that policy, we need to make it in addition into this policy, including co-curricular activities.
Yeah.
For that 2 week period. So that, I mean, we talked about before, our quote unquote athletes cannot participate in things, but yet that athlete who's not participating could be involved in another co-curricular activity that prevents mom and dad from being able to go on vacation as well. So if we shut her down, we shut it all down for 2 weeks and
is that when the building is closed as well, Mr. Dick? Does
Well-
that coincide with the building closure in the summer?
what we do is we make sure that we get our gym floors, if we have to finish it during that 2 week period of time. So we really never have the building never shuts down per se, but that would be a time that allows us to do those type of maintenance activities when we are assured there's no one in the building.
And then how does that affect the extracurricular activities? 'Cause, I know there are certain clubs that certainly utilize that time to do things because their athletes can't be doing anything else. Are they able to come up with a plan B?
I do not know that. I'll be honest, I have not given much thought in regards to how that affects some of the things you're referring to.
What's an example? Co-curricular.
FFA, band,
I think the idea is that they wouldn't be able to because they would be in a blackout period as well.
right.
Right, I'm just saying, have we approached them and asked them, because I know, and I'm not advocating one way or the other.
Sure.
Please don't think I'm saying, oh, we shouldn't include them, because that is not at all what I'm saying, but I know they do FFA camp during the dead period. That's when
Yes.
FFA camp is, it's session 5. Now, I don't know enough about FFA, can they do a different session? Or are you always assigned to a session? Like, I don't know how that
Sure.
works.
I know they can't, that's what I was gonna bring up, my concern if we
And there's state
do.
and county fairs and things that they go to, don't they? Where's the state fair?
No,
No,
there's a
it's
state
not till the
convention.
end of July.
State convention, it's in May.
The convention's in May, yeah,
Ohio's in May, yeah.
it's the first weekend in May.
But I guess I didn't think, but they might, that could be why they picked that
Mhm.
session they do, because that way they know that.
Which makes sense.
Kids will be able to do that because they won't be
It
stuck.
did catch me off guard when
Athletic
my
stuff.
children were freshmen, because I was like, no, we can go on vacation then, because this is the dead period. You're like, no, that's just athletes. Who knew?
Mr. Henry?
There are 5 sessions of FFA camps this summer, 5 different options.
Do you know, can you switch to different sections? Do you know, Mr. Aaron? I don't know.
I think I might go to 6, I missed count.
I think it's fine.
You can do whatever one you want as long as there's room, I think, is that pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
And they'd have,
We can have that discussion.
and they'd have 2
You
years
have
to
had
plan
that
it.
discussion?
I said we can.
You can,
It
sorry.
starts in 2023.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I guess a year and a half, it's
Yeah, they
January,
probably
but
already
yeah.
have.
Yes.
But they could, that gives them, I think, a year and a half gives them.
Yeah.
Ample time, hopefully, to figure out which one they want to do and try and get on that.
And what we can do here is, I can create the policy with the suggestions in it, and we bring it back like we have in the past with a second reading. You know what I'm saying? That way, that gives Mr. Henry and I a chance to talk with our code quicker people, how it affects them, and it makes sense with how we move from there. So, we can have a second and third reading until we get to the point where we need to be.
I'm fine with just a second reading.
That's fine. I will bring it back to you with those, this last week of June, last Saturday in June. So,
So you're proposing the last Saturday in June for 2 weeks?
yes,
And you're proposing where this says, does not want any practices, camps, shootouts, scrimmages, weightlifting, and or any coach contact with the student.
Yeah, right now it just reads purely
It
athletic.
says student
It would
athlete.
be amended to include all
Yes.
extracurricular activities. Procedurally, since we voted, or well, not voted, but since we moved to approve the change, do we need to, what do we do with that?
table it. We'll have table it.
Sounds good.
I would assume so.
Yeah, and then we'll just bring it back up next time.
That's what we want, like I said, if we want to firmly set those dates at least to know.
Yeah.
We can always amend the proposal feature.
I'd like to hear what the FFA has to say about changing that.
Right.
Like, is that just an inconvenience for them and they prefer certainly the 5th session? Or is that something that they cannot get out of and they cannot change? I'd like to know that before I
Well,
vote
like I
on
said, I
that.
guess I hadn't really thought about it entirely, but
Well, for
if that falls within the
FFA,
dead period, they may do it that way, just so the kids,
Right.
an FFA who might be in sports also can do this.
and I think they do, because I think to get your state degree, you have to attend FFA camp.
That helps.
No, I think you have,
You
I don't
have to,
know.
maybe you have to.
So my daughter tells me, I have no idea.
Yeah, that could
She
be
may
the
just
case.
tell me that's what you go to camp. I don't know. I don't know.
I can just say, I know I got my state degree, but actually when I was a member here, I never went to FFA camp, but that was a little while ago. So it might have changed.
Well, because
It may have changed.
maybe, I don't know, maybe you get an extra point, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it certainly helps to the state degree, any activities like that.
But I'd like to hear that they can actually, that it's, might not be their wish, but that there's a possibility that it could be moved.
We'll have a
If you
conversation.
could just ask them.
We will.
All right, so I guess, again, we have 2 options here. We can table this and just come back with the entirely new proposed language, or we can approve with the amended, putting the dates in there for what's there now, just so we know that those are the dates that we're gonna be looking at.
I'm fine with
A year
putting
from
the
now.
dates in there. But I think we need to come back and visit whether or not we're gonna do all extracurriculars.
Right.
That's just my preference.
Okay.
So can we just table it entirely and say,
I think,
Well,
well,
I'm just saying, if we approve now with this athletics ones, as it is now with those dates put in, then it's at least, I guess, somewhat established, those are the dates we're gonna use for a dead period. We can come back later with I guess, a revised version that might include additional things if we want. If you think we need to establish those dates right now, it doesn't really matter, we can just do it all later.
Right.
do you need that now, Mr. Dick?
No, I do not need it now.
Okay, so you don't need it now to
No.
do the schedule, you just need to
No.
know our thoughts.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So who moved and seconded? Who wants to move the table? Do I have to move the table?
Yeah, I'll move the
Motion
table.
table, Robin votes to table this.
I'll second it.
All right, Justin seconds. Any discussion with that? Roll call on the table, this for future.
Mrs. Song?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Kingstock?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
I would like to recommend we approve the memorandum of understanding with the Ohio University Center for Intervention Research in Schools.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Ron moves, second.
A second?
Justin seconds. Discussion.
This is an opportunity that Ohio University has talked to Mr. Brosovich about working with our teachers, basically in regards to the behaviors of students. Am I correct, Mr. Brosovich?
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's something our teachers volunteered to be a part of. So Mr. Brosovich went and sought people who were interested, and I think he has the majority of the staff who has agreed to be a part of it. So something that kind of excited about in regards to obviously learning new ways, new best practice and all that, so.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm? Yes. Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock? Yes. Mrs. Young? Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Did we have anybody do that's later? Okay. So
Yeah, I don't think, because it was Brandon.
Nobody was-
We had that
okay.
one, everybody knew that.
Student, no. student.
Nothing.
Okay. Building principal, Mr. Hinton, let's start with you.
Okay. January 29th is the annual, we're returning it back, the Hall of Fame game. So January 29th, I think the boys basketball plays that Saturday evening. A formal, to save from postage, Mrs. Feliciano will be sending you an email of a formal invite, but we invite you all Saturday night, January 29th to the Hall of Fame induction game. So we have the reception and things like that before. Our staff member of the month for December was Whitney Hutchison. And kind of to add on to Ms. Sharp's report, in January, it's kind of become a tradition now where our ag capstone, ag power students, in the next few weeks, will start to go to Columbus State to practice for and start to be certified for their welding certifications. So exciting stuff there that they get to go back up to Columbus State and start welding. So they've been working really hard and done some good things. So we're excited about that.
Mrs. Cochran.
Yeah, so today at the middle school, grade cards were distributed due to the snow day on Friday, so every student should have taken their grade cards home and given them to their parents. On Friday, this past Friday during the snow day, Mr. Hinton and I met to start up preliminary discussion on the master schedule for next school year. So we had a really good day of planning, and Ms. McClellan and I worked on that a little bit more today. Just in the future, I'll be communicating information to parents through the weekly announcements and through text messages as we move forward to scheduling next spring, and particularly for incoming sixth grade students. It's a new experience at the middle school, so I'll be communicating that information, like I said, via text and then posting it to the website. We are starting a new incentive this Thursday, so students, I included that in the weekly update to students, so they will have the opportunity to watch a movie. During this time, we're playing dodgeball, so we'll have the opportunity to watch a movie as long as they're maintaining their grades and demonstrating their behavior. That will take place during our 8th period elective. Also in the weekly announcements, I included the tardy policy that everybody approved in December, so hopefully parents reviewed that with their students. December aces of the month were 6th grade students Riley Strickler and Blaze McKenzie, 7th grade Addie Dennis and Gavin Moore, 8th grade Olivia Schumacher and Coleman Kokendorfer, and Mr. Temleist was our December staff member of the month.
Thank you. Mr. Brosovich.
Staff member of the month nominated by our parents. I sent out an email on TEC to the parents, and they kind of nominate and share what they think about our staff. And this month is Mrs. Young. Thank you again, board, for approving our partnership with Ohio University with our CBS classroom behavioral support program that we got going on here. Third grade guaranteed information came from the state last week, and there is no longer a third grade guarantee for third grade students. We're going to continue to assess them and collect data and improve their reading scores, even though there is no guarantee there in place. We're going to look at using the online version of the Terra Nova test. The Terra Nova is a paper-based test that we have given in the past to help those students acquire that third grade reading guarantee qualification if they did not pass the AIR test. So we're looking at piloting the Terra Nova online format while there's no ramifications for that for our students. Report cards went home today. Awards assembly for the second 9 weeks is this Friday. You guys are more than welcome to attend that at 1 o'clock in Gym 1. Our yearbook sales will start Friday and will conclude January 28th.
Thank you. Mr. Rayleigh?
Oh, sorry, I had a quick
Oh,
question. I apologize.
Nope.
I'm ignorant. The third grade guarantee, you said it goes away. So the requirement is still there for them to meet that standard for, or no?
No,
That's
it's
what.
all good. Yeah, it's all done and gone.
Okay,
So we're going to still continue to work with those students to improve that, to
right.
make sure that if it was in place,
It didn't get like moved or something like that.
No.
They just said,
no, no,
okay,
just like last year where it's not there.
right. Okay, thanks.
Ms. Rayleigh.
All right, it's hard to believe that we're halfway through the year. Our kindergartners have been participating in something called Second Step. They started in January and it'll continue through April. It focuses on helping our students with executive function skills, empathy, emotion management, and problem solving. So it's been really successful so far. Our teacher of the month is Abby Gall. She's our art teacher. Some things that were said about her was that she makes all students feel welcome in her classroom. She goes above and beyond to liven up the school. All the beautiful snowflakes hanging down the hall were done by her. That she's just an amazing teacher, is willing to lend a hand wherever needed, and even will give up her lunch every now and again if she needs to go above and beyond for her students, which is awesome. Our support staff of the month is Misty Conkle. She's one of our paraprofessionals. Some of the things said by her was that she's just stepping up in a big way to support first grade, that she wants the best for her students always. The little guy that she works with adores her and she adores him. She even went to his Christmas concert to support him. So watching her step up, we really enjoyed having her. She's new to the building this year and she has been wonderful. Our quarterly Aces Way Awards is this Friday in the 77 gym at 2 p.m. We'll be offering awards for perseverance and being an awesome ace. We'd like to welcome aboard Jane Stevenson and Kayla Hardy. They both started today and they have hit the ground running. It was exciting to see kids with smiles heading to and from, chit-chatting with them. They're already kind of building that bond with our students, which is exciting. One thing we're working on is in our monthly letter, starting to share more data and support for parents of how they can help us increase our student growth overall. Some examples are for our kindergartners this month, the data that was shared was that 81 out of 113 of our kindergarten students have chickaboomed. And then it also just gives some suggestions. If your child hasn't chickaboomed yet, check out YouTube for Meet the Phonics or Alpha Blocks. So it's one way of just bridging the gap and making sure parents understand what's going on and what they can do to continue to support. It is cold outside. Yes, we stay in if it's below 20 degrees, but we still have those transition times getting on buses, waiting for cars. So hats, gloves, coats, scarves, just a reminder to make sure we're sending those every day. So far, we've given out 1,050 Aces Way cards. So our students are doing a great job and our staff is keeping that rolling, that Aces Way. I just want to take a minute and highlight our bus drivers. Our bus drivers go above and beyond every day. It's hard to believe they have all those kiddos on a bus on wheels and are able to manage them and also get them to and from school safely. You could not pay me enough money to be behind that wheel. We appreciate just their dedication and you can tell the love and support they have for their students. It really goes back to that. It takes a village to raise our kiddos. They are an important asset to us. Tomorrow I will be enjoying lunch with our top apparel sellers, which were Tanner Carpenter, Elijah Ramsberg, and Jack Davis. That was a PTO fundraiser we did, and it went over super well, so it was 2 thumbs up. Overall, things are going well, and we look forward to the second half of the year.
I don't know who you are anymore. Having an awards program inside, what's that about?
77 gym's really big.
Okay. I like how you like to have those programs outside. I like it.
If I could think people could bundle up enough and we go to that football field, don't doubt it.
I like the scoreboard being used.
Yes, that is.
It's been very cool.
All right, new business. All right, On to new business we go. Item number 1, establish a date and time for the Records Retention Committee to meet, which is
People at that table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the three of us,
I just-
yeah.
It's just us.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
No,
works for you guys.
there's no legal statute of when we have to meet, so whenever's convenient for you. Mr. Dick and I are always here.
I would say I work from home, so my schedule's kind of flexible, so whatever.
When we have the next agenda planning meeting, we can do it then.
Yes,
Get it out through.
that'd be fine. So we'll be doing it in the first week of February.
Don't forget to add to that, the text messaging. We don't have a policy on how long you have to keep it. Do we have a policy on how long you have to keep an email?
I think there is
Is there an RO,
yeah, I think there is
ORC for that?
there is an email, yes.
But
No,
not
I don't
text?
think it's whatever we decide it to be. So I don't think that it's,
Can you look at that and just
For emails?
yeah, because we need.
email and text?
Right. Well, the email I would think is kind of kept forever, even if the member deletes it, it's on a server somewhere.
No, that's not true.
No?
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have a retention policy and it gets deleted, then that means it can't be discoverable.
Right,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
I just figured it was on a server somewhere. I mean,
Well, they need to
Well,
be deleted.
for public records. No, it's not for criminal. So
Right.
there's criminal
So
investigation.
this is just for.
This is for public
like FOIA,
records.
Freedom of Information Act
So-
requests or whatever.
Yeah, Joe Citizen calls and says, I like Justin Renier's emails from last month, and our
Yeah.
retention policy says that we only keep them for 2 weeks, then the answer is, I'm sorry, our retention policy says we keep them 2 weeks. They're not a record, so. Yes, we need to include surveillance,
Oh,
camera footage and
Yeah.
stuff like that, so that's one of the things that we
Okay.
definitely gotta go through, and get some recommendations from SBA too, of what those, because you don't want to ever keep anything too long, you don't want to keep it too short, you want that long
You want
sweet
to find
spot.
us, yeah.
That, you know, keeps us accountable, but at the same time doesn't open us to exposure that we don't necessarily need.
Mhm.
If we do it at the same time as the agenda meeting, January 28th, which is a Friday. Yes, Friday, January 29th, does that work?
Yeah, Friday, I mean, Friday's.
Friday, January 28th? Okay.
We'll
Supposed
have
to.
to go after.
I will, yeah. I have a ritual,
We
well,
each have a ritual on
Yeah.
Friday mornings with our sons.
Oh, really?
Is that a 9 AM?
Probably 8. Yeah, listen.
That's why we couldn't be
I
there.
can't get there
That's
that
right,
early. I
that's
could
right.
do, I mean, I could do 8:30,
Let's do 9.
but yeah, I drop mine off and then usually go over to Spades, but I can drop her off and go over to the meeting.
9.
Maybe we'll bring Spade
There you
just to
go.
keep you happy.
Want to go early.
All right, so the motion would be to do Friday, January 20th, at 9 AM for the to do agenda planning, and then following that would be the Records Retention Committee
Mhm.
meeting. Is there a motion? Not the rest of them, I understand.
I move.
All right, I'll second.
I feel bad, all of us voting on something that only applies to you
Yeah.
guys.
Any discussion? All right, roll call?
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Right, item 2, approve the disposal of the following assets, fitness equipment, Star Trek, Pro stationary bicycle, unknown value, online auction, and also fitness equipment, the Sport Art stationary bicycle, unknown value, online auction. Is there a motion?
I so moved.
Rob moves, second. Misty seconds, discussion?
It's the standard way we dispose of things, right?
That's correct. Any valuable stuff, I'm sure.
Is there a limit? Is it like $100 if the value is considered to be $100 more, it needs to go to the auction? Under 100, it just can be trash,
No, it's actually, I think
or is it
I think
everything?
it's $10,000, but our
Whoa.
board policy, that's Ohio Revised Code, our board policy says that we would, how we dispose of it, which is pretty much anything that's under 10,000, so that would be 0. These, depreciation wise, these have no value.
Yeah, right.
At all, but it's always best. So,
Okay.
and the last time we were able to get almost $3,000 back, from equipment that we weren't even using, so we're gonna continue to try to, let Mr. Dick evaluate whether or not this is equipment or furniture that we need, and if it's not, to get rid of it in a way that brings in some income.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Song?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstop? Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 3, approve staff leave without pay for 2 payroll periods. We got Heather Bell, partial day, Ashley Mount, there's some, I don't know, do I even need to read these?
Yeah, they're there. As
They're there.
presented.
You can see the ones that are there. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Robin moves second,
Second.
Susan seconds, discussion.
So, Mr. Dick, I'm assuming that if you brought that to us, that you are in favor of these. Is that my assumption
We're
correct?
required.
I was thought we were required to do
I know
this.
that you're required, but I thought,
We're required to bring it and we're required to amend it because the original contract was for a certain number of days.
right,
But if we're not paying them for those days, then we have to amend the contract legally to say, this is what we agreed to.
Right.
You're not
So
meeting
we
that.
don't
so-
actually go back and change the contract, but
Right.
this gives us authority to, so at the end of the year, when they have their totals, it's not gonna total up to what their contracted amount was for, because they've had days off without pay, and it's, legally required that you know that they have days without pay.
so if somebody puts in for a day without pay, are they automatically given it? I guess that's my question. I should have phrased it better, sorry.
I
Yes,
see what you're saying.
because,
So if I just say I'd like to have off whatever day without pay, then I automatically get that?
kind of ironic you mentioned that, because it's something we talked about in our administrative meetings about deduct days and, because obviously we hire them with a certain amount of work to be expected to be accomplished by them, or we wouldn't have hired them for those many days. So
We have a fair amount of sick days.
I would think we'd have to exhaust, they'd have to
They do.
exhaust like their,
they're out of sick days when we're approving this.
They're on sick days and personal
Personal
days.
leave, the whole works.
But if they ask for it, it's given.
I don't know the time I didn't, because most of the time what happens is that it's after the fact, they haven't showed up. Or, I mean, not they haven't told us that they're not gonna be here, but they can't be here. So if you exhausted your sick leave and you are diagnosed with COVID, you can't be here.
Right.
So therefore, you don't have any sick leave and
I'm not thinking of it as sick days. I'm thinking of it as just whatever they're doing in their thing job.
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
I thought I don't know that these were days people were asking for sick days. I thought these were more, I need this day off because of a personal.
No, it's, most of them are, am I right, Mrs. Fairchild?
You are,
In fact, most of them are
so
sick leave.
some of
related.
them are even not really optional. So as, public employees, the Ohio Revised Code gives them for personal illness up to 2 years, they can take off without pay,
Mhm.
which is,
So that's-
I like to look at it as an extension of the FMLA, basically.
Okay.
So some of them are those where the board's not gonna have a choice. It's gonna be, you're gonna see some of those eventually.
No,
but
I
they're
don't care. I'm
extended time
just
off.
curious. That's all.
Some of them, could even be potentially dock days because of discipline reasons. Some could be a variety of reasons.
Okay.
But yes, to your point, I mean, I would hope certainly no educator would come in and say, oh, I just would like to take a day off and I don't have any time. I don't think Mr. Dick would approve that. Because it would be something they would have to do ahead of time. But like you said, the way it works is typically the principals will know. They may or may not know though how much benefit time the person has. And that's getting it all to come together. Typically it's after the fact when we know, oh, by the way, this person doesn't have any time left. It also then, this is a good way too, if it is a habitual absentee person, it gives Mr. Dick a real clear picture of, we need to work on this, like, are you coming to work? We need you to be at work, type thing.
I mean, when you have multiple days in a 2-week pay period, then you gotta start asking how valuable is the employee?
Right. No, I get that.
So when you report this at year end, then instead of, for example, 180 days, they might have, you're reporting maybe 172.
Correct. And some of them don't have to get their service year.
That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. So for example, there may be one coming in the near future that, you know, we had to explain to the employee that, you know, the law allows you to take this time. However, you're not gonna get a service year, and then here's what happens because you're not generating any pay, therefore insurance, there's a new rule for insurance, there's a new rule for, you know, this, all this stuff changes because you're not generating any pay to be able to pay your deductions. So, yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 4, approve contract with Ohio Guidestones starting January 3, 2022 to provide behavioral health and supportive services for vulnerable populations, attachment 8. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Robin moves, Justin seconds, discussion.
In the past, we've used another agency, and they were unable to provide us with some help. I saw from a different agency, they could not provide us with the help. This group was in elementary. Mr. Brokovich had created a relationship with them, asked about them providing us these behavioral services. And we've been very excited about what they have to offer us. We look forward to them, and they've been very, very cooperative. And so we're very happy with them after 6 days. Of which one has a snow day. So, at least we have someone here.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkstock?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 5, approve change order to the contract with Dynamics, aka Verigy Energy Services, attachments 9 through 19. Change order includes proposals 1 through 8, and 10. Number 9 is omitted because of the minimal cost. Is there a motion?
Well, before we do that, before you take the motion, can we make this we do not have the change order contract. It was not available from Brookner Neckler. So it just needs to be a discussion item, and no vote needs to be taken tonight because you don't have a contract to view. And I apologize. I couldn't get him to work these
It's not
out.
your fault.
Could we, Mr. Dick?
Just-
We tried.
Here, stop.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move this back to discussion. BB.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I should have said that up front and I forgot about it.
All right, item 6. Well, there you go, discussion items. First reading, policy DJC, bidding requirements, attachment 20.
This being the first reading, we just would like to increase the threshold for quotes. Obviously, we're gonna get quotes whenever we think it's a good idea to do that, but it sets the threshold at $10,000, which is considered a micro purchase versus $1,000. Because it's so low, it's created some issues within the maintenance department of being able to get some things done that are rather time sensitive.
It's consistent with all the state and federal. Yeah, those thresholds have been moved up over the last 5 to 10 years. It, you know, federally, it used to be 3,500 and then it moved to 5 and then it's now 10. And if you think about it, a lot of it is just because if you don't adjust these up, then theoretically you're hampering your ability to get anything done because we all know with inflation, you know, wages go up, material prices go up. Ironically, like, you know, the weird, yeah, I guess that's it. But yeah, this is consistent with pretty much everybody else. Well, I was confused, but I just had questions about the previous discussion item that was given. Because there's 10 items on there and most of them are low, but I was
There's one big one there.
with 2.
But yeah. that's-
Yeah, I guess there's 3 that are over what would be $10,000. And
So there's also this thing that where you piggyback invoices, and the state's very sensitive to that. Because all of these repairs are on the same HVAC system, I think I know I have concern that that's how the state would see it, and they would collectively say, no, this is a $154,000 project, not a $1,000 project, or a,
$800.
the $800 one that we omitted was a valve that is at the cafeteria. There was no heat in the bathroom, in the cafeteria there. So because it's $800, we went ahead and did it. It's done. So we pulled it from this to get it done, because that's kind of important. They need heat in the bathroom.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't avoiding getting competitive bids when we needed to.
Yeah, that's, I mean, in the contracting realm, that's considered splitting requirements to avoid crossing over a threshold, but.
Yeah.
Is that what, and
So that's why the projects 1 through 10, we put those together, omitting number 9, to use the Meta contract. That is a purchasing consortium, which that means Meta has gone out and did the bidding for us, to ensure that they're like state minimums, like we do with the buses, or we don't personally go bid the buses now. We let Meta bid the buses out, and then we purchase from that contract, and that's what we're doing. And the contract we're waiting for is actually from Meta, and they use Bricker Neckler as well. So they're adding these as a change order to the project we've already done, such that our purchasing requirements are met, that we have, in theory, bid these out to the least, or to the lowest bidder through the Meta contract.
from what I was reading, and because I spoke with Mr. Decker, and he did talk about Meta, so I was comfortable with it after that, but it didn't say that anywhere in our
Yeah,
packet.
I know what you
I
mean.
didn't realize.
I was thinking it was a Verigy contract, but really it's a Meta contract.
Yes,
It will
that's what I
meet
did.
criteria for your competition, so we'll be good.
Yes,
Okay.
and I apologize, I guess that does make sense, because if you would have had the resolution with the contract, it would have all fit together in a package, but without it.
Well, I wanted to make sure we weren't chasing the policy, so.
Yeah.
I did,
No.
Oh, no.
I
Yeah.
did wonder on number 16, where it has 2 courses of action, there's an option 1 and option 2, and I didn't know, it gives the combined total of 113, but we won't be doing the combined total, we'll just be picking one, right?
No, we'll be doing the combined total, because one's for the K2 building and one's for the 312 building.
Oh, okay,
And
so,
both of the domestic heaters, water heaters are
gotcha,
limping.
okay,
Oh,
that's
I see.
fine.
But it does say. option
Yeah,
one,
I was
option
reading
two,
it
Yeah,
as like you
and I-
pick one option.
And I'll be
the
honest
other
with you, when you
option.
called today after I looked at it, I'm not sure why they called option 1, option 2, because both of them need replaced.
Gotcha,
So,
okay.
So it's not right off.
Yeah, it's.
It's a contract line item.
Yes.
Yes.
21, 22.
Mr. Dick, are these original? Those
They are.
Those are original to the building when they were built in 2003, and those basically
Yeah,
are
that's
water heaters,
That's a long
They're
time.
vintage.
Yeah, for them to last as long as they have is pretty amazing.
which that was one of the things I was really hoping we would have that contract tonight, because I know Mr. Dick has struggled, as Mr. Lee has, with, they've broken down
Mhm.
several times since it even came up to get them quoted and bid, and so it's been a struggle, but unfortunately, they don't have it.
I know.
All right, so that was the first reading for that bidding requirement thing. Is there anybody have any issue with the language as it is right there then anyways? Is there anything we need to change to come back with the second reading with that?
I'm gonna rely on our expert in contract.
Careful from that word.
Well, I mean, okay, well.
But
more
yeah, that's-
familiarity with it.
yeah.
If you're saying it's familiar, we're waiting for it.
Yeah,
Bidders and any other-
and it doesn't mean we can't get competition. It just means that if you, for instance, I mean, from my agency, typically competition is 3 bids.
Mhm.
But in some cases, you can't even get 3 bids, you can only get 2. Or if it's like a boiler that's broken down and you need somebody to be here tomorrow, well, there might be multiple people that work on boilers, but only one of them can show up tomorrow. So, it doesn't mean that I'm sure, that we'll strive to get the competition even under that threshold, but it just kind of relieves the requirement to
unless something comes up as an emergency situation.
Yeah.
There's a little more flexibility to be able to do some of those things without. As long as they're not a huge thing, obviously. Right. All right, so if nobody has any other things that would need to be adjusted or changed to that proposed language and that policy, and does anybody have any other discussion related to the item 5 that we got?
The Air Force One, that's moved from February to,
They haven't set a date yet.
I haven't said they. That was the one we were referring to.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
All right, we have no other discussion items on there then. Anybody else have any other discussion thing? Impromptu? No? Well then, need a motion to adjourn. Robin moves. Second?
Second?
Couple of seconds. Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Anir?
Yes.
Mrs. Bangston?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
I don't think so. It's kind of a bummer that we've been down here a couple times.